Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Can you hear it?
Is it on? Shabbat Shalom. Can you hear that in the sanctuary? Shabbat Shalom. Great. We invite people to come and sit close. It's an intimate group today.
You can sit closer.
Can sit. We'll begin on page 138 in the Siddur. The transliteration of Moda Ani. We wake up and acknowledge that we have a new day in front of us, a new opportunity to set intention for our day, for our week, for our life. A new beginning. The second song on the page. Modani, please join with us.
Modani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam. 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 Modani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to all those who are at home. We continue to wake up our bodies, our spirits, and our hearts to let go of the week that has passed and to acknowledge what it is that is beyond us, flows through us, what is constant when all things else are in flux. Invite everyone to take a deep breath. In our tradition, breath is connected to spirit, is connected to life, the life force that flows through us. And we remember that that life force is pure and good, and what we are at our core is pure and good. Page 165 or page 17.
שנתת בי טהורה היא אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי
Page 213. Three lines up and transliterated at the bottom. Louder than the sound of the mighty waves, more exalted than the breakers of the sea, raised on high is the source. It's transliterated on that page and also in the chat.
מקולות מים רבים אדירים משפרי ים מקולות מים רבים אדירים משפרי ים אדיר במרום אדוני אדיר במרום Adiba Marom Adonai. Adiba Marom Adonai. Mikolot Mayim Rabim. Adirim Yisbeream. Mikolot Mayim Rabim. Adirim Yisbeream. Adiba Marom Adonai. Adiba Marom Adonai. Adiba Marom Adonai. Adiba Marom Adonai.
Page 231 and 33 in the chat.
Hallelujah, 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 el bekocho, hallelujah, bekiyahuzo, hallelujah, bikurotav, hallelujah, kerov gulo, hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar, hallelujah, benevo vechinor, hallelujah, betofu maton, hallelujah, bemini ve'ugam, oh, hallelujah, 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 betzitzalei shama, hallelujah, betzitzalei chua, kohan neshama tehaleya, hallelujah, 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 oh, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Let us rise in body and spirit with hallelujah on our hearts and our minds on page 247 or page 40.
Baruch et Adonai Havorach. Baruch Adonai Havorach, Havorach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, osei shalom, uvarei et hakol.
You can be seated. Page 249 and page 41. Hakol yodecha Hakol yodecha. Let all beings acknowledge you, all cry praise to you. All declare there is none as holy as the one. Bringer of light with tender care upon the earth and all its inhabitants. In goodness you renew each day perpetually creation's wondrous works. the bottom of the page in the Hebrew and the translation, we see the basis of the text we're about to read. Ha'ma'ir la'aretz ladarim alecha barachamim uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. With tender care and in goodness, you renew each day perpetually creation's wondrous works. And from the composer of this melody, Rabbi Josh Warshawski, describes this experience of what does it mean to every day have creation be renewed. He says, a hum and then a bang. And each day it grew larger and larger and contained more and more. We cannot live in each day in the same way we lived the last, for we all have experiences and memories of the previous day filed away in our internal memory bank. And so each day is created anew, filled with new opportunities, and each day we have the potential to become partners with God in the act of creation, adding to the world in a way that only we can. So invite everyone to hum. Take a hum with us. Hum. Join me. Hum. We're going to sing Ha'ma'ira, which is on page 261 under the line, and it is also transliterated in the chat.
Hum, ha, ha, hum, ha, ha, hum, ha, ha, hum, ha, hum, ha.
invite you to sit for a moment and some silence. Invite you to either continue davening in the Yotzer section or just take a moment to breathe in that burst of creation, that burst of possibility into your heart. To blessed God, they offer melodies. To the sovereign and enduring God, we utter songs. Make praises heard. Page 269, the bottom of the page, in the Hebrew and the transliteration.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו במהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. אהבה רבה
At the top of page 275, and also transliterate it, enlighten us with your Torah, cause us to cling to your mitzvot.
והערננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחי לבבינו לאהבה וליראת שמך. והערננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, Shalom, be'arba kanfot haaretz, betolichenu komemiyut le'artzenu, betolichenu komemiyut le'artzenu. Ki el poel Yeshuot ata, לקרב תנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך יחדך ביהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. For those of you at home, please unmute so we can recite the Shema together in one voice. Shema, Shema, Israel, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai,
Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושינתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. We continue with biblical selection 1 or 2, or some moments of quiet, and we'll join back for the third paragraph. Page 285.
ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו, עשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet.
On page 288, you will find at the people in the sanctuary will find pasted in a reading that comes from the 1945 Reconstructionist Prayer Book, so written by Kaplan and his colleagues who added new liturgy, changed liturgy radically, and also added new liturgy. And this reading is eerily resonant right now. And we know that 1945 was also a time where this liturgy meant something, at least was beginning to be aware of something very evil and tyrannic in our community and in our world. So really thinking of channeling all those who came before us, who shared these words and who pray for peace, who pray for a world where tyrants do not rule. Please, for those in the sanctuary, join with me, and for those at home, we can listen together at the bottom of the page. Whenever human rulers usurp divine authority and exploit the people, those tyrants' hearts are hardened, their own arrogance writes their doom. Therefore, we will never be discouraged or dismayed when unrighteous powers rise up and destroy us. Though enemy hosts pursue us, we shall remember how our ancestors were saved at the Sea of Reeds. We therefore report the words of triumph and give thanks for their deliverance. Ken Yehi Ratzon, and page 291.
La 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 בחוג גאולים להשימך על שפת הים אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד יאללה Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
We begin the Amidah on page 295 or 67. We'll daven through the first 3 paragraphs and then have some time for silent meditation or davening with the words in the book or our own words. 295.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ekonei HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ביאהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה לחיים בחסד, מחיי כל חי ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלי ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה. Yeshua. ונאמנת על החיות כל חי, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי כל חי. 303. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היו נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מן השאים למצרפים, למתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו, לעולם ועד תשכון, תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. בינינו תירנה מלכותך, בינינו תירנה מלכותך, כדבר אמור בשירי עוזך, כדבר אמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We sing the words of Ose Shalom virtually every week. Perhaps they have a little bit more feeling, a little bit more resonance right now as we think about what does it mean to seek peace in a world where there are people and power, people in power who we can't control and who are subverting the possibilities of peace. And while we know that prayer is not enough, we know that prayer is not a substitute for action, it is still a meaningful and important way that we redirect our own hearts and minds, a way that we bring more energy of love and harmony and peace into the world. So let's join together for Oseh Shalom, page 323, directing our hearts towards Ukraine, toward all those who are in harm's way. May they find peace and may they find refuge.
Shalom bimroma, say shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom bimroma, say shalom aleinu. Say shalom, say shalom, shalom.
Please rise. We turn to page 385 of the Torah. Ark openers can come forward. $385. Page 393, responsively.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadelul Adonai iti, unromima Shemo yachdav. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtatavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtatavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtatavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtatavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu.
You can be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And Shabbat Shalom to everyone who's joining us online. We see you, and we're so happy to see you. We can wave to you, everyone, and wave to some people have their cameras off, but there are plenty of people who don't. We see Renee, we see Jackie, we see Lori, we see Marilyn, Caitlin, Richard, David. I'm going to leave people out. Sandra, Carol, Evie. I think I've gotten most of you. Francine. So wonderful to see you all here. Shabbat Shalom. And who's waving that I didn't see? Renee, thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are thrilled to be here this Shabbat, and so important for us to gather and gain inspiration and strength in these difficult times in our world. Our Parsha today is Parshat Vayakhel. And it is a parsha, I'll talk much more about this later, but as a parsha of building the tabernacle that comes on the heels of the worst behavior of the Israelites well, maybe that's debatable, but one of the worst incidences of the Israelites of building the golden calf. And here we come with this parsha of rebuilding. And I was thinking about this morning and yesterday, I was thinking about, if we think about the golden calf incident and we think about what happened, not only as, just some kind of form of evil or some kind of manifestation of negative behavior, but really as a manifestation of anxiety and of not knowing, of insecurity, and people just waiting and waiting and waiting for Moses, and nothing's happening and nothing's coming, and they're getting more and more anxious and more anxious. And if we think about it that way, then this parsha is a really important teaching and reminding us that what do we do with our anxiety? What do we do when we don't know what to do? We act. We find ways to positively build in our world. So we will begin our Torah reading today in your larger red books on page 556, chapter 36, verse 1 through 4. We're coming in about midway into Vayakhel. They're usually often Vayakhel and Pikudei are together. They're not, so the verses change a little bit when we're reading them separately. Okay. V'yazor v'yagam v'yochol. One second. Yeah, go on. V'yazor v'yagam v'yoshia l'chol chasim bo v'nomar amen hakol havugod el Eloheinu tkavo laTorah nala amo the aliyah harishona. We call up the first aliyah to the Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah l'mo Yisrael b'kedushato v'atem madikim Adonai Elohechem chayim kolchem hayom.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Baruch Atah Hamvarach Elam Baed Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Elam Baed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher krivanu lavodato v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
We are on chapter 36, verse 1, at the top of the page. Or sort of at the top of the page.
איש חכם לב אשר נתן אדוני חוכמה ותבונה בהמה לדעת לעשות את כל מלאכת עבודת הקודש וכל אשר ציווה אדוני ויקרא משה אל בצלאל ואל אליאב ואל כל איש חכם לב אשר נתן אדוני חוכמה בליבו כל אשר נשא ליבו לקרבה אל המלאכה לעשות אותה ויקחו מלפני משה את כל התרומה אשר הביאו בני ישראל למלאכת עבודת הקודש לעשות אותה והם הביאו אליו עוד נדבה בבוקר ויבואו כל החכמים העושים את כל מלאכת הקודש איש איש ממלאכתו אשר הם עושים.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayim olam natat tohin Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yeshikoach. Pam, Yeshikoach on a really thoughtful, extraordinarily well prepared and important tish this morning. Yeshikoach. And this is also practice for your adult bar mitzvah coming up April 30th. And with a cohort of 16 others, I believe, 17 others. Okay. The next aliyah is Nala Amud, the aliyah Hashniya. We call up Marilyn for the second aliyah.
Baruch Hu Adonai Havarach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kirvanu Lavodato Ve'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. We're on verse 5, same page.
אמן. ויאמרו אל משה לאמור, מרבים העם להביא מידי העבודה למלאכה, אשר ציווה אדוני לעשות אותה. ויצב משה ויעבירו כל במחנה לאמור, איש ואישה, אל יעשו עוד מלאכת תרומת הקודש, ויקלל מהביא, והמלאכה הייתה דיים, לכל המלאכה לעשות אותה בהותר.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Marilyn put together, as always, a beautiful Voices of the SAJ last night, which was on Zoom only. And for those of you who were there, know it was tremendously powerful and beautiful. And the recording can be available maybe as well for those who weren't. Thank you so much for your incredible hard work in rallying the troops and getting people to share their selves in really beautiful and vulnerable ways. And thank you for your leadership. And I have to note that this is the first time that Marilyn has been back in the sanctuary. No, really? Second time. I must have missed it. Okay, a Tish. But anyway, we're very happy to see you in the sanctuary and Mazal Tov on the wonderful event last night. We're going to continue in our reading. And the third reading is on the next page, 557, at the top of the page, verse 8. Nala Amol Aliyah Hashlishit. We call up Debbie for the third Aliyah.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kirvanu Lavodato V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
אמן. ויעשו כל חכם לב בעושי המלאכה את המשכן 10 יריות 6 מושזר ותכלת וארגמן ותולת שני קרובים מעשה חושב עשה אותם אורך הירייה אחת 28 באמה ורוחב 4 באמה הרייה אחת מידה אחת לכל הריות ויחבר את 5 הריות אחת אל אחת ו5 יריות חיבר אחת אל אחת ויעש לולות תכלת על שפת הריחת מקצה במחברת כן עשה בשפת הריח הקיצונה במחברת השנית 50 לולות עשה בריח אחת 50 לולות עשה בקצה הריח אשר במחברת השנית מקבילות הלולות אחת אל אחת ויעש 50 קרסי זהב ויחבר את הריאות אחת אל אחת בקרסים ויהי משכן אחד.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Thank you so much for substituting last week. Yasher koach. Yes.
This is an opportunity to give a yesher koach again and a deep appreciation for Debbie's leadership all the time, but especially last week when she leaned 5 aliyot and co-led the service. And so thank you for everything and thank you for all the beautiful singing and nigunim you bring to SAJ. Yesher koach. We'll take a moment to offer Misha Barak for healing for those in our community who are in need of blessings of healing, healing of spirit, healing of body. We hold both together and remember to also include ourselves for healing if we need those blessings. Misha Barak Avotena Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov Matenu Sariv Karachav Aleyah. May the one who blessed our ancestors send blessings of healing and strength and good care to Esther, Aviva, Bat Sarah, Adele, Avraham, Michael, Ben Shira, Yafa, Yosef, Larry Josephson, Paul Rosenblum, Zelda, Bat Devorah, Yisroel, Mort Gerberg, Chava, Bat Moish, Paul Lindenbaum, Phyllis Kreitner, Eva Reisman, Kayla Bat Sarah, Amy Mandelker, Margot Hellman, Florence Cohen, Tehila Bat Bella, Florence Rosenthal, Ruth Goldenson, Kate Fricci, Jill Prosky, Reuven Ben Barbara, Shalom Hellman, Alan Gard, Yaakov Ben Ladi, Reyes Ben Sara, Adele Ribelo, Chava Bat Chaya, George Frega, Jennifer Novak, Shimon Ben Sviva Esther, Noam Eliezer Ben Yael Chaya, Hanan Lev Ben Leah, Abigail Fader Kane, Hagen, Joseph, Heidi, Nanette Gottfried, Jesse Gottfried, Cindy Lawrence, Sonali, Rojohori, Ari Vogel, Al Seidenberg, Al Broder, Samantha Mantell, Tybal Rachel Bat Hashkav, Avraham, Sarah Bat Leah, Geese, Leah Goldie. And if there's other names that you want included, please rise and I'll come around, or please put names in the chat.
My friend Roger Salish.
For all those names we've read and all those names that are still unknown to us, and those people who are in need of those blessings, and of course we're thinking of for healing all those in harm's way. May they find strength and peace and comfort and support, and let us say Amen. We continue with our Torah reading. This morning, our fourth aliyah will be for anyone who is observing a yard site today, likes to come up in memory of a beloved member of their family or friend. Na'la amod aliyah harevi'it. We're on verse 14, 557.
Baruch Hu et Adonai.
Adonai Hanbarah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch
Baruch
Adonai.
Adonai Hanbarach Yom Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Avodato. V'natan lanu et
Torato. Baruch atah Adonai.
Torah.
Amen.
Amen. ויסר יריות עזים לאוהל על משכן 12 יריות עשה אותם באורך הריח אחת 30 באמה ו4 אמות רוחב הריח אחת מידה אחת ל12 יריות ויכבה את 5 יריות לבד ואת 6 יריות לבד היה סלולות 50 על שפת הריח הקיצונה במחברת 50 לולות עשה על שפת הריח החוברת השנית ויעש קרסי נחושת 50 לחבר את האוהל להיות אחד ויעש מכסה לאוהל אורות אלים מאודמים ומכסה אורות תחשים מלמעלה.
Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Asher Natan
Lanu Torah emet.
V'chaye
Olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Before I chant the El Maleh, I'm going to invite those who have risen for this Aliyah to please share the name and relationship out loud so we can honor their memories. And I'll call on you one at a time. So Janet, and please into the mic.
my father, Joseph Brain.
Robert.
My father, David Grossberg.
Anne.
Both of my parents, Marvin and Leona Cherner.
David.
My father, Morris Katz.
And Richard, if you want to unmute.
Richard, we can't hear you.
I was saying it for all of those in Ukraine who have been hit by this war.
So we honor their memory with the El Maleh memorial prayer. El Maleh Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamtzei Menocha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina B'ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tehorim Kezohar HaRakia Masirim Lenishmot Yakirinu Kedoshinu Shehalchu Le'olamam Ana Bal HaRachamim Hasirim B'tzal Kanafecha Le'olamim Utzror B'tzror HaChayim Nishmatam Adonai Hu Nachalatam V'yanuchu V'shalom B'mishkavam V'nomar Amen. I just have to roll. Okay.
May their memories be for a blessing, and let us say amen. We can go back to the regular screen. We have, because Purim is approaching and soon Passover, soonish Passover too, we have some special Torah readings in honor of those days, or in honor of the lead up to those days, I should say, that our tradition gives us these special readings to remind us that we are in this particular holiday cycle and to bring certain themes to mind in our own congregational and individual life. So our Shabbat today is Shabbat Shekalim, which is the Shabbat that really establishes a truly egalitarian foundation of our community, where every single person in the community, no matter how wealthy, no matter how poor, had to give the same exact small amount so that everyone felt they had an equal stake in their community. It's a very SAJ passage. We are now on your red books on page 523, and it's Exodus 30, verses 11 to 16. And for this Aliyah, we call up anyone celebrating a birthday, a new job, an upcoming birthday, or anything, a grandchild's birthday, perhaps. Anything that you might want to come up for this Aliyah, please, Nala Mod Aliyah Chamishit. Sure. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
What's 2 weeks?
It's bar mitzvah. It's Boaz. Jonah's down.
Shabbat shalom. If you want to kiss here, you just touch. And kiss. Okay, I'll count to 3. You guys can chant together. 1, 2, 3.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher tzivanu avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Boaz, can you hold this open? Thank you. Amen. Vaydaber Adonai al Moshe limor ki tisa et rosh bnei Yisrael livkureihem v'natenu ish kofer nafsho l'Adonai bivkorotam v'lo yeh bahem negef bivkorotam ze yitenu kol haover al hapekudim מחצית השקל בשקל הקודש, 20 גרה השקל, מחצית השקל תרומה לאדוני, כל העובר על הפקודים מבין 20 שנה ומעלה, ייתן תרומת אדוני, העשיר לא ירבה, והדל לא ימעיט, ממחצית השקל לתת את תרומת אדוני לכפר על נפשותיכם, ולקחת את כסף הכיפורים מאת בני ישראל ונתת אותו על עבודת אוהל מועד, והיה לבני ישראל לזיכרון לפני אדוני לכפר על נפשותיכם.
Baruch atah
Adonai
Eloheinu melech
haolam
asher natan lanu Torah emet
haolam notan yochenu Baruch atah Adonai
noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Yomotenu Sarah Kavachal Valeah Hu Yavarach. May the God who blessed our ancestors bless you today who have risen in honor of Shabbat, in honor of community, in honor of, I'm assuming this is why, in honor of your son's bar mitzvah in 2 weeks. And just 2 weeks we'll be here with Jonah leading us in prayer and your whole family. And congratulations to you, and early congratulations, and we can't wait to celebrate. Richard, I know it's your birthday coming up tomorrow. Marina, what are you here celebrating with your gorgeous Ashlyn? Can you unmute and tell us what you're celebrating?
I'm celebrating that I currently work at Ethical Culture School and I have recently become their JV lacrosse coach at Fieldston. Very exciting.
Wonderful. Mazal Tov on this new position within your position at Fieldston, correct? Is that right? Or Ethical Culture? Are they the same? I don't know these schools, but Yesher Koach, and wonderful and great to see you guys. Mwah. Richard, Mishaberach, Avatena, Avraham, Yitzhak, Ve'akov, Yimatenu, Sarah, Karakov, Leah, may the one who blessed our ancestors bless you who have risen today in honor of Shabbat, in honor of community, and in honor of your 81st, I believe, 81st birthday tomorrow.
Dyslexic, it's only
bless.
18.
What'd you say?
If you're dyslexic, it's only 18.
18 or 81st, but we embrace our age as an opportunity to continually grow and learn and give and receive and give and do good in the world, which we know that you're so deeply committed to. May you continue to have many blessings and a wonderful year of success and health. And let us say, Na la'amod lahag ba'av legally la. We call up Rabbi Karen Fox and Mickey Rosen to lift and wrap the Torah. Please rise if you are able.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. לה 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 לה
Shabbat Shalom, you can be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Woo, let's, okay. As we all know, SAJ calls itself a Judaism that stands for all. Along with the importance of reconstructing tradition and making it come alive for today, we place a strong emphasis on inclusion and the value of diversity. Over the last few years, but really in the course of my entire 16 years of the rabbinate, I think that's the right number, I have been having the same conversation with a few people who, though they may personally support the idea of inclusion, they want to make it known that inclusion itself is not a Jewish value per se. They argue that inclusion and its cousins of egalitarianism and participation are perfectly fine concepts, but they just come from our secular, open, and democratic and contemporary civilization or society. And as Reconstructionists following in the footsteps of Mordecai Kaplan, who argued the virtue of evolving our civilization, evolving our Judaism, and of being fully American and fully Jewish, we can and should appropriate such concepts from our wider world and incorporate them into our Judaism. But they argue strongly it is important to know that it is just that, a borrowing, a lifting, and an incorporating. Because to them, inclusion is not an intrinsic value, as I mentioned. So to those folks who I've been having this 16-year dialogue with, or depending on how long I've known them, I offer Exhibit A, Parshat Vayakhel. And I want to acknowledge first that in our 3,000-something-year-old history, the Jewish people may not have privileged inclusion and egalitarianism for most of its history. The ancient rabbis who really saved Judaism from the brink of destruction with the temple being destroyed, and who created the ritual and community-oriented Judaism that we treasure and practice today, lived in a world of hierarchies that privileged erudition. The future Jewish community is built off that legacy and continued in that direction until modern times. So we can simply say, perhaps, that the Judaism of most of our great-grandparents, grandparents, and even for some, our parents, was not a Judaism in which everyone's voice was valued and heard. Heck, I even grew up in a conservative synagogue that was not egalitarian, in which I was not allowed to read Torah for my bat mitzvah, more on that soon, and where kids with special needs did not have the same access to rituals as everyone else. This is all true and is our reality. At the same time, I want to argue that the roots of inclusion and participation do not simply come from our modern understandings of democracy. Their bones are in the Torah, in this week's Torah portion, Vayakhel. Inclusion, egalitarianism, the value of participation are not peripheral here at all. They are the core of what it means to build holy community and holy society. Perhaps we can debate this, although maybe not now, maybe later. Instead of saying that inclusion is intrinsically not Jewish or not a Jewish value, we might say that it went into a latency period when historical circumstances changed. It became dormant, but it then could flourish again in communities today the way that it was intended to. So now let's look at some of the parts and aspects of Vayakhel to help us understand, or what I see as the vision of inclusion that is central to the building of the Mishkan. So as I mentioned before, this parsha is one of repair and reconciliation, of a do-over. We have the incident of the golden calf, where the people gathered against Aaron to build an idol. And here we have a parsha where the exact same phrasing is used, not a coincidence, Vayakhel in both circumstances. But here the people are gathering for a purpose. They're gathering for community building. They're gathering to create this beautiful structure that will serve them to serve God. In terms of inclusion, the parsha goes out of its way to make sure that it is known that every single person in the community is invited into this sacred building project. First, and I don't know if people can glance along in their Tanakh if they want, in their Torah if they want, I'll try to highlight some of the many parts. The very first words of the Torah portion are that Moses gathered Vayakhel at Kol Adat B'nai Yisrael. Kol Adat, the whole entire congregation of the people of Israel. Even Ramban, the 13th century mystical commentator, takes note of that Kol Adat, saying that this is the expression of the fact that it was both men and women who were asked to give to the tabernacle. They all donated to the work of the tabernacle, which seems to be in contrast with the golden calf, where it seemed that the men were in charge. There you go. And the women did not participate except when they had been forced to give their jewelry. It feels significant that the fact that the Torah makes it clear that we have to go out of the way to make sure that we know that it is all people participating. And as we know, the work of inclusion is not just about having everyone in the room. Inclusion means also that people have to feel fully valued for their individual gifts and differences. And that is also core to Parshat Vayakhel. In addition to the Shekalim offering that we just read about, which offers a full egalitarianism of social classes, the people here are asked to give a second offering, Nadiv Lev offering, the offering of the heart, inviting each person to find their own individual way to contribute, whether it was through a certain talent, through a certain gift, through something they owned or something they possessed. They were invited as individuals to bring their individuality to the table. And that was what a sense of valuing each person. The Torah is explicit about different kinds of talents. It talks about talents for making sculptures, talents for weaving, talents for building certain things. So anyone with those talents are invited to participate. But even it goes a little bit beyond that. And I want to share a beautiful teaching that I learned from Amelia Wolf, who is a current rabbinical student at JTS. And she shares this even more explicitly. When we learn about these gifts that the people are supposed to give, there are actually two different ways that the Torah writes about the gifts. One is Terumat Ladonai, which is a gift to God, and the other is Trumat Adonai, which could mean, or probably means, a gift of God. Meaning that there are two different ways that the people are supposed to give. They're supposed to give to God, but they're supposed to give of themselves, of the gifts that they individually have, and that's what they offer. They are invited to bring their whole selves to the process of creating the sacred space. These individual gifts for the sake of the holy. This is a model of inclusion that our ancestors offer that should be a striving for all communities after. Lastly, although there are even more examples than I can cover in this talk today, but lastly, I'll share about, we see in the Torah portion that this way of including and valuing each person and each contribution, each unique offering, was a door to meaningful participation. Once people were asked to give of themselves and of their hearts truly and authentically, they did so in a way that is beyond the scope of expectation and beyond the scope of anything we see really in the Torah, before or after. It says that when they're asked to give and they're asked to do all these things, they come back with such enthusiasm that they give boker ba boker, day after day after day after day, and some interpreters say all day long. So much so that there are so many gifts that Moses has to say, enough. I can't take any more of your gifts, which is something that's very impossible to believe a leader would say, that there's a limitation on gifts. But there is a sense of like, we just physically can't have the space for all of the gifts that you're giving. It's too much, so take a break, everyone. So there's a sense of inclusion and participation. Again, are they values that come from democracy, or are they values that are explicitly mentioned right here in this Torah? As I've spoken about on Rosh Hashanah and in connection to the 100th anniversary, the building of the sanctuary in Jewish life, especially as it's spoken about in next week's Parsha, is a microcosm of creation, a model of the kind of world that we wish to see. And despite those who argue that inclusion is not inherently Jewish, it seems to me that our tradition understands that building community and society necessitated those values: inclusion, acceptance, egalitarianism, participation, invitation. They're all so critical to building the Mishkan, to building the kind of world that we want to see. And while those values have maybe gone underground for a couple generations, they are in fact ancient values in our tradition. So for the sake of time, I'm going to keep going. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Actually, I'll just take two thoughts if people want. to weigh in at this point about this idea that inclusion is actually an inherently Jewish value that perhaps went underground, but is so critical to the building of the tabernacle, or about how we determine what is or what isn't intrinsically Jewish, or about anything else about this particular parsha that might speak to this. Just one or two comments if you have them, and if not, I'll wrap us up. Does anyone? Okay, David. Oh, I have to get the microphone. Okay. It's on? Okay.
Thank you. My name is David Wise. I live in Queens. You know what Queens is? Oh, okay. I don't know. A lot of Manhattanites don't know what Queens. They think it's a place you pass on the way to the Hamptons. Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, is that better? The area I live in is called Kew Gardens, and I am the only non-Orthodox Jew on my block. And when I say my block, I don't mean my block. I mean my block. All the way up to the Chabad house on one corner, the two Orthodox synagogues on another corner. When I first moved into this neighborhood 41 years ago, I found that my Orthodox neighbors did not accept me as a Jew. I didn't wear their uniform. I didn't wear a kippah every time I went out of the house. I didn't wear a suit all the time. I had the temerity to drive on Shabbat because I had to get to the subway to get to my synagogue, or out to Long Island to go to another synagogue. So one of the things I found is that their concept of who was a Jew and who was not a Jew basically ended at their own front door. Nowadays, most of these people have sold their homes and are replaced by other people. So now I was there first, and I find that nowadays things are better. People say Shabbat Shalom, well, they say Good Shabbos to me. They even say Shana Tova, which before I would say that to a lot of people, and they'd look at me and say, thank you, rather than saying it back. And there's a message in there. So that's, I always questioned their Judaism while they were questioning mine.
Okay, Marilyn, and then I'll wrap it up.
Isn't them saying that you're not a Jew, isn't that a form of idolatry? That their way, only their way is the right way? Isn't that a form of idolatry?
Thank you. This opens a conversation for another time, I think, in terms of this subtopic. But I think the point being, what is Judaism? Who defines what it is? Who defines what it's about, right?
This goes back to a different parsha in the end of Re'eh. It's not related to what you were just talking about, but it says that we each give according to our needs. So it's not like we're taxed, at a level place where we're giving at each of the festivals according to our own needs, but we all need to come before the Lord with something.
Yeah, Shai Held speaks about this parsha in terms of socioeconomic equality, and that there's this desire for everyone to give of themselves, also mitigated against the social dynamics of inequality, because everyone could find a way to give. So I just wanted to hopefully let us think about, what does it mean? Who defines what is Jewish, what isn't Jewish, whether our values, where they come from and how their roots are established. And I think this idea of that inclusion is part of building the most important structure in our Torah, is to me, a very comforting teaching that what we're doing is not new, but is drawing on a legacy and on a vision of our ancestors. I think there's some feedback. And it's also deeply relevant to the moment that we're living in. The Torah presents a model of a society, not just a community, a society where participation and autonomy of individuals is critical. And here we are at a time of war where those ideas, those democratic values are being threatened, and also Torah values are being threatened. Having a vision of a world in which everyone is invited to create a society by bringing themselves, their full selves, their talents, and all of who they are, to me is an extension of the idea of B'Tselem Elohim, that we're all created in the divine image. And we are living at a time where there are unprecedented attacks on the LGBT community. And they're in this moment of Texas and Florida making really problematic and really dangerous rulings, and other states following suit. To know that we have a textual tradition that says that everyone is supposed to give Trumat Adonai, gifts of God, gifts of themselves, given by who they are and what talents and skills and identities they were born with. To me, that helps us fight back, knowing that we have a vision of a world, that vision of the world we wish to see is not just a modern one, but an ancient one where every person is free to give of themselves and everyone is treated with equality. So may it be so, and may we send our prayers and blessings to the people of Ukraine who are in danger's way, and to all the families and children who are impacted by these terrible, terrible laws. And let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Okay, we're going to now announce the new Jewish month. We invite everyone to please rise. Bill, would you be willing to come up and hold the Torah for us? I don't know, because of time. When you just, I sort of just, I think it's okay. Why is there noise? What's that noise coming from? It's outside. Oh, it's outside, okay. We are on page 427 in our prayer books, or 425, I don't have it down.
Okay. 425, 424. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. May it be your will, eternal one, our God, that you renew for us this month for goodness and blessing, a long life of peace, nourishment and sustenance. May it be a life of bodily health, where we find on the divine a love of Torah, a life free of disgrace and shame, a life of happiness and honor, integrity and discernment, intelligence and knowledge, a life in which our heart's petitions are fulfilled for goodness. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Misha asanisim elavotinu limotenu galotam me'avdud lecherut hu yigalotanu bekarov vikabitz yidachenu me'arba kanfot haaretz chaverim kol Yisrael v'nomar Amen. Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni ביום חמישי וביום שישי הבא עלינו ועל כל ישראל לטובה.
ראש חודש אדר שני יהיה ביום חמישי וביום שישי הבא עלינו לטובה. Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni, Rosh Chodesh Adar 2 will be this coming Thursday and Friday. May come for us and for all the world as a blessing.
יחדשהו הקדוש ברוך הוא עלינו ועל כל יושבי תבל לחיים ולשלום לששון ולשמחה לישועה ולנחמה ונאמר Amen. We continue on page 433. יהללו את שם אדוני כי נשגב שמו לבדו הודו על ארץ ושמיים ויורם קרן לעמו תהילה לכל חסידיו לבני ישראל עם קרובו Hallelujah, hallelujah. continue on page 441 as we return the Torah to the Ark. Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha meyushar deracheha dafei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Kadesh yameinu
We remain standing for Aleinu, page 445.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Final 3 lines and the next page. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 451. If you're reciting the Kaddish, remembering anyone, or if it's your custom to stand, you can stand. Otherwise, you can be seated. Today, we are remembering, for a yard site, remembering Helen Rogofsky Zuckerbrun, Leona Roth Cherner and Marvin Cherner, James Steinhardt, David Grossberg, Morris Katz, Joseph Jack Brain. Anyone else want to share someone that you're thinking of today? Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divarach leirutei, bi'amlich malchutei. B'chayachon v'yom echon, b'chayei dechol be'Yisrael, b'avala u'v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yibarach, yishtabach, v'yipa'ar, v'yiraman, v'yinaseh. V'yadhadar, v'yatalev, v'yatalal, shemeda kudasha, rechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'minran b'yama v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav. Huyaseh shalom. Alena vel kol Yisrael vel kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. Amen. May those who are mourning and remembering have abundant comfort and find abundant comfort and strength and community. And let us say, Amen. I'll invite Janet up. And I think everyone heard that prayer for the month help plant in our minds a certain holiday that's coming up.
And certain events coming up, which will be very important. So it's wonderful to see everybody that's here with us today. Thank you first to Marilyn Talal and to all the talented SAJers who contributed to last night's fabulous Voices of the SAJ. Thank you to Pam Tishman and to Ruth Messenger of SAJ's Racial Justice Study and Activism Group for leading today's Tish, and to Jim Keneally and Diane Heimer for ushering today. Tuesday night, March 1st at 7:30 via Zoom, please join Rabbi Lauren and Karen Gershon to discuss the evolving situation in the Ukraine and the Ukrainian Jewish community. Karen is CEO of Project Kesher and works to build Jewish life and advance the status of women in the Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. The link is in the chat, should be in the chat now, and it's on SAJ's website. Next Friday night in person, we have Tiferet's Singing Circle at 6:30. Everybody knows that's wonderful. Please join us for that. And Saturday, yes, no, yes. And Saturday is a community shir. Next Saturday is a community shir with our Macomb students back in the sanctuary with us. Yay, 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 finally. March is coming, and Purim is coming, and the first bat mitzvah celebration is coming. Please donate for the Mishloach Manot fundraiser to support Macomb. Our Purim Carnival is on Saturday, March 12th at 12:30, right after Macomb. The Purim Spiel and Megillah reading is on Wednesday evening, March 16th. On Thursday evening, March 17th, will be the panel discussion about the first bat mitzvah, including a guest appearance from the young actress who's playing Judith Kaplan in SAJ's Instagram story about Judith Kaplan's bat mitzvah. It's in-person seating is limited, so please register for that. Links again in the chat. Grab and Go is in the lobby. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. And for those who didn't see, there was an amazing article that actually was published in both Jewish Week and The Forward, because they always share articles, on the Instagram project that we are spearheading and that McMoore is organizing for us. Shakoach, thank you, Janet. We're going to conclude with 443 in Kelohenu, and then a brief Kiddush and Motzi, grab and go snacks, and more announcements. Oh, and more announcements about food coming soon.
Ein Kelohenu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkenu, ein Kemoshienu, ein Kelohenu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkenu, ein Kemoshienu. Mi Kelohenu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkenu, mi Kemoshienu, ein Shabbat Shalom.
Please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.